वेलकम टू आवर नेशन स्टेट डायलॉग सीरीज राष्ट्र राज्य संवाद श्रृंखला में आपका स्वागत है. 欢迎收看民族国家对话系列. I'm Dr. Geeta Kochar, moderator for today's discussion. Today it is our pleasure to have with us Dr. Sun Lizhou. He is the director of Center for South Asian Studies at the World and China Institute, concurrently a senior fellow at Jian Rui Think Tank and a research fellow at the Punghol Institution. He holds bachelor's and master's as well as doctor's degree from the School of International Relations, Peking University, as well as dual degrees in philosophy. He has previously served as faculties in Peking University, Nankai University, Chongqing University, and Southwest University of Political Science and Law. He has published many articles in various media outlets, and he is a very known figure in China. So welcome, Dr. Sun, to our channel. So let's begin this conversation by asking you about how China views the evolving regional and global politics that is happening around.
In Chinese media, one term often appears: the biggest challenge, the biggest change in international system in the last 100 years. 百年未有之大变局. Chinese scholars usually say the Eastern countries and the global South are rising, while U.S. hegemony is declining. China approaches evolving regional and global politics with a strategic perspective, focused on peace, development, cooperation, and mutual benefit. It advocates for a community with a shared future for mankind, emphasizing multilateralism and the reform of global governance to make it more just and equitable. In the face of changing dynamics, China supports dialogues over confrontation, seeks to manage differences through diplomacy, and promotes initiatives like the Belt Road or shared growth. It respects the sovereignty and development paths of nations while opposing interference in internal affairs. China's stance is to contribute to stability and prosperity, aligning with the broader goals of international law and the UN Charter. China also put forward a Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, Global Civilization Initiative, Global Governance Initiative, and the Global Artificial Intelligence Governance Initiative. Thank you.
Okay, so let me move a little deeper into what you have done as a research. And I know that you've done a lot of research on Pakistan. So how do you see China-Pakistan relations in the context of changing dynamics of the US presence in Pakistan, and what future you see of the BRI that you've been talking about? Yeah.
Pakistan and the US has been allies since 1950s. Pakistan's close ties with US did not hinder its relations with China. In the early 1970s, Pakistan made great contribution in bringing China and the US together. Remember, Dr. Henry Kissinger fled from Islamabad to Beijing. Despite the recent show in US-Pakistan ties, the Pakistan-China relationship remains remarkably resilient, and countries continues to serve as the cornerstone of Pakistan's foreign policy. The evolving US presence does not fundamentally change the depth of or whether strategic cooperation partnership between China and Pakistan. Since 2025, high-level exchanges have intensified. Both sides have reformed their Iron Brotherhood and upgraded the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor to a version 2.0, expanding cooperation into agriculture, mining, and IT. Pakistan has repeatedly stated that its relationship with China is a cornerstone of its foreign policy, surpassing any other ties. Pakistan recently decided to buy Chinese weapons. The value is $12 billion. CPEC is a multi-dollar billion anchor of Chinese influence. While rumors surfaced about Pakistan potentially offering port access to the US, Islamabad swiftly denied them, demonstrating that its determination to protect core interests with China. Beijing does not view the recent Pakistan-US rapprochement as a strategic threat. China's confidence in its strong position in Pakistan, built on decades of trust and massive infrastructure investment. In summary, the Pakistan-China relationship remains dominant, and unshaken. The evolving U.S. presence in Pakistan represents a tactical, issue-based engagement rather than a strategic reorientation. China's influence is deeply embedded in Pakistan's economy and security architecture. About the future of BRI, a new strategic framework will come. The 15th Five-Year Plan, 2026 to 2030, will provide the blueprint emphasizing soft connectivity, policy and standards, and people-to-people bonds alongside traditional hard connectivity, meaning physical infrastructure. The holistic approach aims to deepening integration with partner countries. Green and digital transformation will become a new pillars. A new approach for mega to small and beautiful will prevail. For major infrastructure in 2026, Gwadar Port in Pakistan is expanding its free trade and logistic zones to attract manufacturing. Greece Pier Atus Port, majority owned by China's COSCO company, will strengthen its role as a European gateway. The China-Europe freight train network is growing with new hubs in Central Asia, featuring small custom systems to cut transit costs. Thank you.
Okay, so I understand that there's a new blueprint that you are going to come out for China-Pakistan relation, and especially when Pakistan is, investing $12 billion in Pakistan. China's been, supplying those many weapons to Pakistan. There's going to be greater confidence that China has on Pakistan, even if there is a lot of presence of US in Pakistan. I'll come back to how that blueprint is, there for other South Asian countries. But let me put your focus to the hotspot that we have of the world today, and that is the Middle East conflict. So China in the past actually took accolades of mediating between Saudi Arabia and Iran, right? And this time has come out with a new peace deal along with Pakistan for the Middle East conflict. So can you please elaborate on the role of China in the conflict? And in your view, what are the strategic and geopolitical objectives of the US under Trump, and how does it affect China in the growing scenario?
Okay, China's role in the US-Israeli-Iran conflict is best described as that of pragmatic mediator and a strategic balancer. China's primary goal is to protect its own vast economic and energy interests in the region while avoiding direct entanglement in the great power confrontation. China actively engaged in diplomatic efforts to de-escalate tensions, yet it firmly opposes unilateral sanctions and maintains critical economic ties with Iran. In times of crisis, China officials, including the foreign minister and the special envoys, have conducted intensive rounds of calls and meetings with all parties, Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the US, Russia, and European powers, to urge restraint and promote dialogue. China has co-sponsored with Pakistan specific ceasefire plans and has labored Gulf states to support de-escalation. Together with Russia, China has vetoed UN Security Council resolutions that could have provided legal cover for military actions against Iran, insisting on political solutions. About the strategic and geopolitical objectives of US, the core of Trump's strategic vision is American First doctrine, which has undergone a significant evolution since its return to office, pivoting from ideological great power competition of his first term towards a more transactional, realist, and territorially focused approach. The administration's strategy is articulated in key document, the 2025 National Security Strategy, NSS, and the 2026 National Defense Strategy, NDS. American First prioritization means the strategy begins with a rejection of post-Cold War interventionism. The result is a deliberate narrowing of vital interests to defending the homeland, securing borders, protecting the economy, and preserving U.S. sovereignty. This translates into a rejection of costly nation building and move away from the rule-based international order rhetoric in favor of a more direct, power-based approach. The most dramatic shift is a formal reassertion of the Monroe Doctrine. The administration seeks to restore near-absolute U.S. military and economic dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This means denying any China and Russian strategic influence over critical assets like the Panama Canal, the Gulf of Mexico, and Greenland. President Trump even openly claims Greenland and Panama Canal and tried to annex Canada. Trump also aims at controlling all important waterways in the world. Seizing Hormuz Strait is one of the reasons to attack Iran. The evolution of U.S. strategy and Trump presents China with a complex and contradictory set of challenges and opportunities as well. The shift of ideological confrontation to transactional pragmatism opens new doors but also introduces new forms of pressure. For Beijing, this is a double-edged sword. It reduces the risk of conflict driven by ideological friction, but raises the stakes in tangible, high-stakes bargaining. After the tariff war waged by Trump against China, the trade truce is fragile and the major issues remain unresolved. The Trump administration's transactional policy offers conditional access to U.S. advanced artificial intelligence chips. However, this executive branch openness is under the constant threat of a hawkish U.S. Congress. On geopolitical front, the impact is perhaps the most profound. The U.S. strategic consolidation in Western Hemisphere and its demand for European self-reliance could create new space for China to expand its influence in the regions, such as through its Belt and Road Initiative and deeper engagement with Global South. However, the U.S. remains actively engaged in containing China in the Indo-Pacific. While the tone has softened, the actions continue. The 2025 NSS explicitly claims to build a military capable of denying aggression anywhere in the first island chain, including Taiwan. U.S. remains the biggest obstacles of China's reunification. Thank you.
Okay, so you've given a very strong sense to me that China is actually moving very pragmatically, but it is going to have the dual-edged sword kind of a situation, which really takes me back to how it is evolving in South Asia. And I would want to push you to what is happening in the neighborhood that I see. And one of the closest neighbors of China is Nepal. So in your opinion, what are China's objectives in Nepal, especially with this new government in power? And how do you see this relationship will evolve? Because when China is looking at the strategic, hemisphere and trying to be building strategic rebalancing with all the countries, how would it, reshape its relations with Nepal?
Okay, in my opinion, China's primary goal is to consolidate strategic influence and ensure Nepal is not used against Chinese interests. Therefore, China keeps a close look at the Tibet secessionist activities in Nepal. Since India considers China as the biggest geopolitical competitor, many Chinese scholars advocate the policy of helping Nepal maintaining independence and not being controlled by India, while not interfere with Nepal's domestic politics. The Belt and Road Initiative and its associated projects is a key driver of China-Nepal relationship. Many Chinese and Nepalese scholars support the idea of building China-Nepal Railway. However, slow implementation of projects and different views on financing is hindering BRI in Nepal. In all, I believe China-Nepal relation will have a bright future. Thank you.
I hope so, but there are other trends which are coming, and we would talk about that later. But let's talk about the larger other issues of the South Asian countries. And, China is actually resetting its ties with almost all South Asian countries, be it Afghanistan or Sri Lanka. So in your view, how does China view South Asia? I mean, that's the larger question everyone in India wants to know. And what are the short-term and long-term goals of China in South Asia, which is very crucial for our Indian understanding? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. China is systematically resetting its ties with all South Asian countries, from Afghanistan to Sri Lanka, with a new, more proactive posture. China's strategy in South Asia is built on a trinity of good neighborliness, enriching neighbors, and securing neighbors. 睦邻、富邻、安邻. These three pillars serve the ultimate goal of building a community with a shared future for neighboring countries. By 2025, political trust reached unprecedented heights with many countries. Ties with Pakistan were elevated to a new level, and the relation with India shows a clear improvement. In 2025, China-South Asia trade exceeded $200 billion for the first time, growing 10.7% year-on-year. China is offering zero tariff treatment and upgrading investment agreements to deeply integrate regional markets. China actively provides security public goods, mediating Afghanistan-Pakistan conflicts, offering platform for dialogue, and conducting joint counter-terrorism exercises with Pakistan and Nepal. Following the Saudi-Iran reconciliation, the Urumqi process aimed to replicate the model in South Asia. China provides multi-layered security public goods, from broad security initiatives to joint military exercises. Presenting itself as a responsible major power, China leads the creation of new regional cooperation mechanisms, setting new rules. This runs in parallel with deepening existing platforms, aiming for a more efficient network. China's strategy in South Asia is designed to achieve layered, mutually reinforcing goals. The short-term priority focuses on stabilizing its immediate periphery and deepening economic ties. China aims to deepen its role as a primary economic partner for countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka through concessional loans and infrastructure projects and the Belt and Road Initiative. The long-term vision is to transition from a builder of infrastructure to an architecture of regional value chains. This involves moving from infrastructure to industrial growth through CPEC 2.0, creating a unified economic space where Chinese interests are deeply embedded. This strategy also includes integrating partner economy into China's supply chains to create long-term interdependence. Thank you.
You made a very interesting point as Moon-Lin, Fu-Lin, and An-Ling. I think that also comes from the traditional notions that Chinese had. I have heard those notions even in Qing dynasty when they want to build relations with the neighboring countries or the neighboring states at that point of time, the the kingdoms that they were. So I think there's a sense which people will get to know where China is looking at and how China behaves with the other South Asian powers. But let me push you to your own research, which is very interesting in terms of how it deals with the other countries. And you have talked about informal soft power and cricket, stating that while informal political ties may freeze, these cultural channels allow for a baseline of mutual recognition that prevents total regional fragmentation. And this is where your research has been highlighted. So can you elaborate on this concept that you talked about?
Okay, in South Asia, cultural soft power plays an increasingly vital role. Beyond tense politics, it helps shape regional identity, foster mutual understanding, and serves as both a bridge and a battlefield for influence. Countries promote unique cultural symbols, for example, India's yoga and Bollywood, Pakistan's cricket and high-quality television dramas, Bhutan's gross national happiness index, to protect values and counter negative stereotypes. Shared festivals, sports, films, and art create grassroots connection that can help ease historical rivalries and encourage cooperation. Major powers, especially India and China, are using cultural diplomacy, language, media, infrastructure projects as a new frontier for influence. Thank you.
Okay, so the moment I talk about cultural, ties, and you are saying that this soft power is very essential. One of the things that come to mind for everyone, and this is the last question that I'm going to put on, is about information, war. So, information war versus kinetic war. How does China view it and plan to use it?
China views information warfare not as a separate domain, but as a decisive integrated component of modern conflict, and is often more effective than kinetic physical warfare. It is the central pillar for a broader strategy to achieve national objectives, particularly against more powerful adversaries, while avoiding the escalatory risk of direct military confrontation. Despite the focus on information, China does not see it as a replacement for kinetic warfare. The tools are intended to be complementary. Information enables kinetic actions. Information warfare is used to blind and penalize enemy systems first, or softening targets for physical strikes. Kinetic actions support information goals. Precise strikes can be used to destroy key command node, further degrading an enemy's information network. China has learned from conflicts like the war in Ukraine that information warfare alone cannot win a war. It must be fused with military force. In summary, China's approach is to use information warfare to degrade and demoralize its opponent, reducing the need for prolonged and costly kinetic war, while the ultimate goal of achieving its political aims without triggering a direct military confrontation. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I know that people will understand this and correlate with what we have been talking about during Operation Sindoor, about how Pakistan's information warfare evolved, and now, when US and Israel is having conflict with Iran, or even again, I mean, there are talks about how Iran is using this information warfare. So, Dr. Sun, it was very interesting to talk with you, and I'm hoping that there are a lot many more questions that we can talk to you and engage further in future dialogues. So thank you very much for joining our channel, and to our viewers and who are interested in more such informative and interesting viewpoints directly from the Chinese, from the scholars, from the policymakers, and from other scholars who understand India, China, the geopolitics and the regional things. Please like and subscribe to our channel and keep watching. We are going to have many more interesting videos for your input and for your knowledge and expanding your sense of understanding about the entire geopolitics. So thank you very much for watching this. Namaskar and Jai Hind.